Narcissistic abuse, it leaves behind a kind of devastation that's really hard to see and even harder to explain. It's this quiet, creeping kind of destruction. So in this explainer, we're going to dive deep and break down the profound and, frankly, far-reaching damage these toxic relationships can cause, based on some really insightful analysis of the subject. Let's get into it.
So right off the bat, we have to ask, what are the real risks here? We're not just talking about having a few more arguments or feeling down for a while. No, the damage we're discussing runs so much deeper. It can impact the very core of who you are as a person. And that's exactly what we're going to map out.
And here's our roadmap for this breakdown. We're going to look at this through 4 key themes. First, that deep psychological wound that gets inflicted. Then, the complete loss of your own identity. Third, the way your inner reality gets twisted. And finally, we'll cover what the source material calls the scorched earth aftermath.
Okay, let's start with section 1, the deep psychological wound. And I really want to stress, this isn't just about surface-level hurt feelings. We're talking about a fundamental, internal trauma that completely rewires how safe you feel in your own life and in the world.
Now just take a second to really let this sink in. This comparison is, well, it's shocking. The psychological fallout isn't being compared to a bad breakup. It's being put on the same level as the trauma that survivors of war, natural disasters, and even political prisoners go through. That alone just tells you the sheer severity of the damage we're dealing with here.
So what does this trauma actually look like? Well, it creates this state of constant hypervigilance. You're always on edge, just waiting for the next attack or the next punishment. That leads to this profound feeling of being unsafe, totally exposed, with no defenses. It builds this chronic, deep-seated shame, this feeling that you're just not good enough. You feel broken inside, scattered. And the end result of all that? Just complete, total internal burnout. It's like you're trying to put the pieces of yourself back together, but they just don't seem to fit anymore.
And that leads us right into our second section, because it all builds on itself. The loss of identity and self. This goes way beyond just feeling sad. It is, quite literally, about forgetting who you even are.
This statement, it's so simple, but it is absolutely devastating. Can you imagine looking in the mirror and just not recognizing the person looking back at you? Not because of how they look, but because their essence, their spirit, their self just feels gone. And that is such a common and heartbreaking outcome.
And make no mistake, this doesn't happen by accident. It's a process. It's a deconstruction. It all starts with your self-confidence being shattered over and over again. Every accomplishment you have gets minimized, while every tiny flaw gets magnified. Then, over time, your self-awareness, that connection to your own feelings, your own wants, it just vanishes. And the final step, a complete loss of identity. You're no longer defined by your own values, but by whatever the narcissist needs you to be. This brings us straight into our third section, the distortion of internal reality. This is where the abuse gets really, really insidious, because it moves from being an external force to an internal one. It really comes down to this: whose voice is running the show inside your own head?
I mean, just think about that for a second. That inner critic we all have, the one that tells you you're not good enough, that you messed up again, is that your voice? Or has it been hijacked and replaced by an echo of your abuser? It's a key tactic, really. Install their critical voice inside of you, and pretty soon you start controlling and punishing yourself for them.
And the goal here couldn't be clearer. The source material calls it living in a fog. The narcissist intentionally creates chaos, confusion, and self-doubt. And why do they do that? It's simple. A person who is constantly confused and questioning their own reality is so much easier to control.
The consequences of this in the real world are just debilitating. You see constant self-blame and self-criticism. You find it almost impossible to manage your own emotions because you just don't trust them anymore. This creates this feeling of being completely lost, scattered, helpless, and it can make it nearly impossible to do even simple things, let alone stand up for your own basic rights.
And all of that brings us to our final section, the scorched earth aftermath. I mean, the name says it all, right? This term perfectly describes the all-encompassing devastation that's left behind. It's the grand total of all the damage we've just talked about. Ruin and destruction beyond imagination. This phrase from the source really captures the scale of it.
It's not just that one part of your life is affected. It's like a deliberate policy of total destruction has been carried out.
And that's the crucial point, how incredibly comprehensive this is. This destruction hits your physical health, your emotions, your thoughts, your energy levels. It goes after your very spirit. And it doesn't stop there. It can trash your social standing, erode your social skills through isolation. It's as if an enemy disguised as a partner is systematically laid waste to every single part of your life.
Which, of course, leaves us with this final and probably most important question. After this level of total destruction, after the internal trauma, the loss of self, the complete distortion of your reality, how on earth does a person even begin to recover? The journey back is a long one, for sure. But understanding the true depth of the damage, well, that's always the very first step.